Good morning and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Orchestrating Sales Success with Customer Journey Plugin. My name is Belén Rodriguez Opperman, and I am Marketing Specialist here at Sugar CRM, and I will be your host for this webinar. Before we get started, I would like to go through a few housekeeping items. During this session, everyone is on mute. However, we encourage you to communicate or ask questions during the presentation. For doing so, please type them into the question box in your control panel. We will be dedicating 10 minutes at the end of the session for the Q&A. Also, and important to highlight, we will be recording this session and it will be provided to you in an email in the following days. Today's session will be presented by Andreas Schuster, Customer Success Director for EMEA. Here's a fun fact about Andreas. For those of you who don't know, Andreas' first interaction with Sugar CRM was as a customer. So join us and participate with questions as Andreas shares his experience about this useful component for Sugar. Now, without further ado, I will hand the word over to Andreas. Hi, Andreas. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, Belén. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar. Sorry for keeping you waiting, and sorry in case you had to interrupt or to postpone your lunch. In Dach, it's lunchtime now, and so let's start the little webinar. I hope everybody can hear me and see me. Hearing is more important than seeing, but if you can't, or if there are any issues, just use the chat of this GoToWebinar and let us know. I'm Andreas. I am a CSD at Sugar CRM. I'm looking after relationships with key customers in continental Europe, and I've been at Sugar for 2.5 years. And previously, as Belén mentioned, I have done CRM projects in the industry, so I had been on the other side of the fence as well. And I used to go through journeys, and in fact, every one of us do. Every day, we go through customer journeys when we buy things, either B2B or B2C. And so I used to go through journeys myself and also manage them. And that's a big slogan, orchestrating sales success with customer journey plugin. It's just a tiny plugin, and we're not going to talk about the Sugar CRM software with all its functionality, but we talk about the philosophy and the aspect of guiding users through a customer journey, through the customer journey templates. And I do believe, and I'm convinced that this is relevant for 90% of all use cases. So in most Sugar use cases, it's useful to have workflow guidance and to design ideal customer journeys. And for us in Sugar, it will help us achieve our vision, which is to create lifetime relationships with our customers. And we hope that it will help you to achieve the same vision. But in order to use it, we have to understand and agree to the fact that workflows are a success factor for sales and for profit. We have to believe that a unique buying experience is key to success, and we have to believe that that perfection in workflows is also the key to success. But let's ask the question the other way around. Why shouldn't workflows be excellent at all? And there's plenty of indication why they aren't very often. And so I read statistics that about 75% of all opportunities aren't closed because salespeople didn't follow up on time. They didn't really chase the opportunity, and part of the reason is that they're not guided. You know, in the day-to-day business, with all the things going on, they're not guided properly through the project management, which is indeed required for a B2B in order to close B2B opportunities. So that's one thing. You will end up with long sales cycles. Even if you win the deal, you never know if you've taken the adequate amount of time, or whether the opportunities took over proportionally long to close, which is you might win the deal, but you might not win it in a very efficient way. And thirdly, when you're running a global business with different sales subsidiary across countries and regions, you're bound to have these inconsistencies, these cultural differences, different ways of addressing customers, and that might distort the experience that your customers and leads have around your brand and around your services. So these are the typical challenges that will tell you will need some guidance in your CRM system that takes you and your users through these procedures. Now, this is not a new insight. We have known this, for a very long time, that you have to look after customer relationships. But why have we started to address these things in Sugar a couple of years back? Now, the truth is, one reason is the philosophy of the journey. Customers being on a journey was created in Sugar, was created 5 or 6 years ago. And one reason is, of course, the way the markets developed. So we have a couple of mega trends that influence all the things going on in our industry. And one mega trend definitely is on demand. Everything is on demand today, particularly in B2B. Companies outsource services if they don't need to provide them themselves. I used to spend some years in the industry for office equipment, printers and copiers, both in the printing and office market. And in the 2000s, up to the 2000s, there was largely a box moving business. So companies selling items and customers who have to finance it and hope that the investment would materialize over a couple of years. And that was changed to pay-per-page, to a new way of thinking about owning or outsourcing items. So companies nowadays, they don't buy copiers or printers anymore, but they print and pay per page and leave everything else to the service provider. So the service contract, the write-off or the leasing rate of your hardware, and paper, toner, ink, whatever you might need for operating these machines, are part of a price per page. And so companies have stopped owning these things. And that's definitely a mega trend who influences the whole journey aspect. And the second is, so that's B2B, or even in B2C, the journey aspect has become bigger and bigger by use of social media. So 20 years ago, companies such as Nike or Sony, they would sell their items and leave the customer alone with it. Today, when you're buying items from those and other vendors and you're in love with a brand, you will follow them on social media. You will follow them on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. So even though this is still a box moving business on the B2C side, because there's hardly any service contract around a Nike sports shoe, these companies take you on a journey as a private customer. And so both in B2B and B2C, the journey aspect, has become more and more significant in the past couple of years. And so that's one. So that's the journey approach. The second reason is very particular to Sugar as a vendor for CRM technology, because in around 2015, 2016, it turned out that customers felt overwhelmed by the variety of functions in Sugar. And so when you compare the Sugar CRM software from 10 years from today to the current version, you will realize that there's so much more functionality and users can easily be overwhelmed by all this. And so out of our own interest, we have started to offer this customer journey plugin in order to streamline the use by users who might not use everything, or hardly any users using every functionality in Sugar, but to make sure they use the right thing in the right order. And so those two aspects have led to Sugar CRM introducing the plugin, the CJP as we call it. But let's get back to the idea of a journey. So that would be what you see here on this slide. It would be a typical, like a textbook journey, probably very B2C related. Of course, these journeys can take forever. These journeys can last for a lifetime if you're very lucky, but usually we're not that lucky. So at some point, customers will drop your product and services and go somewhere else, but you want them to return, right? And so you want to make sure from the first to the last minute, this relationship is orchestrated very well. And of course, you will never pack all the stages of a full lifetime journey into one piece of technology. You will always define stages of the journey. But when you start building, well, that's the point. When you start with customer journey functionality in your CRM system, you should make sure that the journeys are defined. So there's still a lot of companies who do their business on a day-to-day basis, who haven't yet designed the ideal journey, who haven't designed what is the ideal journey we want our customer to be on, what, from the moment of becoming aware of the brand to the moment of buying the products and services to the point of dropping it and hopefully buying again. And so that's an interesting side aspect. So when I was in the industry, the first step was to build an ideal journey, to really understand what is the ideal customer journey of people buying our products and services. What are some examples of journeys that you would formalize with this plugin? Probably the most used is to nurture a lead efficiently. So from the moment a lead becomes visible in our system, make sure leads are taking through an ideal journey from the first call, second call, download sources available to them, downloading white papers, taking part in events, to the point when they become customers, and then starting the key account management. Well, all the stages that are typically part in the key account management. And there's, of course, legal compliances today, which are more important than ever in 2020 and since 2018, basically, is to be compliant with the requirements of GDPR in Europe. And so there's a couple of basic customer rights that every customer have: to be informed, the right to access the data you're keeping of them, to rectify them, erase them, etc., etc. When a customer is raising these requests, you want to make sure everybody in your company is processing, no matter where they are, whether they're in Germany, France, Austria, wherever. You want to make sure that these claims are processed the very same way and documented, because there will be an audit at some point, and you will have to prove that your business is according to this legislation. Another example, just to point that out, that sits in the middle of the bullets: onboarding. Onboarding new customers can keep you very, very busy. You want this to be very smooth and to be streamlined. So you want to make sure when your team changes, or when new customers start to buy from you, that you immediately onboard them and familiarize your sales team with this customer. Now let's have a look at what the plugin really is. Now there was a bit of technology, and there was a historical background, but this is technology now. So this is what you see here is the record view that you would usually look at in Sugar CRM at the example of an opportunity. So that's an opportunity, and usually you would see the fields of an opportunity of the record in the big panel, in the main record panel. But what you see here instead is exactly that. It's a customer journey template. It's a workflow. And the idea behind it is that when you start an opportunity, you don't start, in a wild array of fields, but this journey takes you through the steps that you have to go through in that opportunity. So particularly in B2B with very demanding project management like opportunities, you want to make sure that your CRM users, that your sales reps go through these projects in exactly that very way. And you can arrange these templates in a way that certain steps can't be skipped. So for example, if a first call is just part of your ideal journey, and every interested prospect should be called at least one time, if that's mandatory, you can make that step mandatory, and nobody in your sales team can bypass that step. Everybody has to go through that step, and you can't onboard a customer unless you had at least that one particular call. And so let's look a little closer. That's a journey that's structured by the dark green arrows. There would be stages, and the light green icons that you see, that would be activities. And so these are all the activities, and to make it easier for the user to understand, you can structure them under those summarizing stages. And you start with the first one, and you, using the mouse now, you start with the first one and you complete the journey with the last one when the opportunity is won and the deal was made. So that is the idea of the whole thing. Technically, the green elements are modules. So in this opportunity, whatever step you're taking here is either a call record, a meeting record, or a task record, the typical activity records in Sugar. And when these records are created, they exist. They can be used for reports. They can be reassigned to somebody else, and they can be reported by. And so this is perfectly embedded in the standard functionality of Sugar. And you can also see the related records. So in the sub panel, you would usually look up for the related panels, for the related records, such as contacts that belong to an account. You find all the related items to an opportunity, to a customer journey. On the right side, you see the intelligence panel, and usually in the intelligence panel, you find dashboards that you have created or predefined dashboards that you pick from the selection of dashboards, and you see two new charts. You see a pie chart which shows green fields and blue and gray fields, and you can see a momentum gauge. And so the pie chart, this is a progress chart. So obviously some of those stages, some of those steps in the journey have been completed, and those completed steps would be shown as green in the progress chart. So when you're working on the opportunity, you're always aware of the progress that you have made. But most importantly is the customer momentum gauge, because even if your progress are at a certain level which satisfies you, like 60-70%, we're almost there, that doesn't mean that you're very fast, because you can be very slow. This opportunity can be around for over a year, and even though the progress looks good and green and everything, it's very slow. It's below the time that is the benchmark for your ideal customer journey, for your ideal opportunity. And so the idea behind that gauge is that for every step in this customer journey, you define a certain amount of time, maximum time, that should be used for the step. For example, if you look at that very step, build value proposition, if you don't want this to take longer than 2 or 3 days in your sales team, and it takes longer, then the progress might be there, but the gauge will go from green to yellow or even to red, because you're above your maximum time allowance. So very importantly, the two aspects: the progress of your customer journey and the momentum of your customer journey. Two things that you can't analyze on that level of convenience with standard Sugar functionality. This is what the customer journey brings you additionally. And another comment, this all seems very manual. You have to go from one step to another. But actually, I've seen customers who automate it to the maximum. So you can send the data you create here to external URL. We call it webhooks. For example, if the journey is about registering new customers to a platform and you're running a credit check, which you want to go through an external credit check application, you can send data there and receive data back. So you can make sure that that you have created a journey, but there's also automation in it. So the next question is, how can I track with CJP? Now, this is the traditional way to track items with with Sugar, is you using the tile view or any other view to understand where the opportunities are at. And you can use the traditional visualization in reports such as the pipeline funnel. And so that is the pipeline funnel. But it shows you in hindsight what the sales performance was in your company, but it doesn't tell you if your workflows were really good enough or if you could have been better. And so this is the new way of reporting with the customer journey plugin. And this shows you all the journeys that are in your system with their progress bar and the momentum bar. And you can see it's very obviously that some of the journeys are green, but other journeys are good in progress, but are yellow or red. So that means that those journeys are really falling behind. And even if we win those, we might have won those faster. And that's the way that you would track so that was obviously a list view in Sugar, and that's the reporting view. That's a report made based on all the journeys out there with the momentum. So you can really understand which are the workflow steps, which are the workflow stages that are falling behind. So looking at your company, you can really understand, oh, we do have an issue with our first calls. We do have an issue with the onboarding. We do have an issue with the credit check. And these are the stages in our journey that really leave customers behind and that slow down the process. Any questions so far? So we have some questions in the chat. The first is, can CJP do reporting? I think that shows it. You can see the journeys in the list view and the respective modules, but you can as well do a traditional report on them. The second question is, can CJP be purchased for a subset of Sugar users? That's probably a question of a hint user. Yes, you can purchase CJP for any subset of users in your Sugar. It needn't be the exact. So if you're a customer and, for example, you have 50 licenses, you can equip 25 or 30 or any other subset of users with customer journey. All right, I would then switch off the camera and go to a quick demo. We have 5 minutes left. If there are no more questions. Belen, any questions that you can see in the chat? I can't see any. All right.
Yes.
You see another question?
Not so far. I will let you know. Thank you.
All right. I have one question here. So which are the typical activities? The typical activities are calls, meetings, and tasks that you have inside the journey. And I have another question: for which modules is the customer journey plugin? And the answer is it's for accounts, contacts, cases, and opportunities, and leads, of course. So these are the modules where you can embed your customer journey templates. All right, so let's go to the demo platform, and you can see something's changed here. So you see on the first two modules are usually not there. They are there once you activated the customer journey plugin. the journeys and the journey stages. I'll show you in a minute why this makes sense. Now let's jump to a customer and see how we can activate one of those journeys. So if you are not familiar with this screen, it's probably because if you're a Sugar CRM customer, it has been modded, but this is the way it would look if you unpacked it as a new product. And you can see between the record panel and the sub panel, there's the customer journey panel. It's empty now because we haven't defined one. And the way you start a customer journey from a template, and by the way, the administrator can define an unlimited number of templates. In this case, one is predefined. I just click on it and go to plus. And in a minute, the customer journey will embed itself in this panel. And so this is for account, but customer journey, as I said, can be used on the context module, opportunities, and leads the very same way. And here we go. So this is the journey about yearly account planning. So this is for key account management now. So if your company wants to make sure that the key account planning is a standard globally, then you might want to use this for everybody. And by the way, I manually activated it, but of course this can be automated. So Sugar CRM has an engine for automated workflows called BPM. And you can use the BPM to automatically launch the journey. I did it manually, but you can launch it automatically. So for example, if in an account record, a status is switched from prospect to account, this can be a trigger to automatically create this key account management journey. And that's what it looks like. And you can see, there's icon, there's assignees. You can change the assignees. So you can open the step and reassign the task to somebody else. That won't change the fact that you are the owner. You own the account, so you own the whole journey. But individual steps can be reassigned to other people in your company.
And I have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's very important topic. It says that I would like to understand if the CJP could be a good fit for my specific business case. Who should I contact to receive further information?
I get there in a minute. You can contact me. You can contact your partner. Your Sugar partner. You can contact your customer success person at Sugar. Anybody in the Sugar CRM ecosystem.
Thank you.
And this is how you check out these activities. If you don't want to go, there's a preview window. That you can also edit. The preview eye sits here in the middle of the activity icons, and you go here to manually complete them, leave a comment, or to just complete them in the journey itself. And once a stage is completed, you will see that in a minute that the progress bar will move ahead. But since we're very fast in this demo, the customer journey momentum will stay green, but it will move to red if we can't meet the timelines indicated in this template. All right. And, sometimes you see icons blocked by. This means that, for example, these meetings, the typical QBR meetings that you might do once in a quarter, if that's your ideal journey, that those can't be skipped. So you can't complete the annual key account management process if you don't do the QBR meetings. So those would be mandatory, other can be optional. If the rep needs more activity around it, for example, if the second meeting is needed for escalations or anything, you can always, as a user, as a rep, you can always add those elements. but that way you don't change you can see you meeting embedded here, but that doesn't change the template. The template will remain the same. It's just for this particular journey, the rep or the user or the owner of the task has added another meeting. And also this is very important for a company to understand, our typical journey might not be enough because most reps need 2 meetings in a quarter. So we might readjust the template accordingly. Or you could even add stages here. So that's one example for accounts. Just very briefly, if you go to do that step again, if you go to opportunities, it's the very same. So this is an opportunity, and you select so obviously here 3 templates are prepared. And so I activate the sales process, go to plus, and I go the very same way about this template, which has been created typically for opportunities. And I go ahead the same way. And the same for leads. Again, customer journey. You need not embed journeys in all those modules, but you can. If you don't want a journey for lead nurturing and conversion, that's fine. That can be decided by the administrator. And the stages, so if you're looking at this is the last comment in the demo. If you're looking at the stages, this helps you to understand which stages do really perform poorly. Obviously, these are all green, but if you find red here, you can analyze them further, and you will understand which workflow stages are not done excellently, or which stages might be unrealistic in their time criteria. And this is the overview of the journey, just my own journeys as a rep, and I can always track my progress here as well. So I can always see with which customer or lead am I behind. So what is my journey I have to keep working on for the day, etc. And if that's not enough, as seen in the slide earlier, I can run a report on them with more defined and subtle information. All right, so that was the demo.
And Andreas, thank you so much. I think that's all the time we have for today. Do you have any closing statements?
Nothing. As I said earlier, if you're interested, you're not sure, if you have more questions, just reach out to me directly or reach out to your customer success person or reseller. Happy to help. I do think customer journey is for you, but you have, of course, judge yourself.
Perfect. I would like to thank everyone again for their time. I hope you found this webinar useful. Andreas, again, thank you so much for this excellent presentation. To everyone listening, I remind you that an email with a link containing the recording of this webinar will be reaching your inbox in the following days. If you have any questions, observations, or suggestions, don't hesitate to let us know. Thanks again, everyone, and have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.